Is this bright enough for everyone? Can everyone see it? Yeah? Alright. Everything going good for everyone so far?
Yeah.
Alright.
I feel like an hour.
Alright, let's do it. So this is a brainstem.
Oh, baby.
Know this. Know the cranial nerves coming out of the brainstem, where each is, what number they are. Over there, number 2, 3, 4 is coming out of where?
Inte borde
The back. Okay?
Oh.
I have just really the simple things. It's the only one to come out of the back, and then it loops around over where? Where does it loop over?
The ponton no, the
pineal gland. What is the
Oh.
pineal gland for? Yeah. Which helps you?
sleep.
There you go. Okay, trigeminal is right here, then 6, 7, 8, and then it rounds back 9. I'm sorry, 6, and then
Yeah, that was right.
yeah, 7, 8, and then it goes 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay?
Mike, you mind turning off one of the lights?
Yeah, sure.
In the front of the room, though.
Which is that better? You guys want me to turn it on or off?
And I was done. I was like,
It's in quarter to 10.
oh.
Yeah, 7 to like 9.
Better? Alright. So just, you guys will get a picture of an actual brainstem, or at least we did, and I want you, a lot of people knew exactly what cranial nerve it was, they just didn't know how to identify it on the brainstem. So don't miss that. So, just in case you want to see an actual picture, there it is. That's one of these or one of those. Is more along the lines of what you'll see. If you guys don't feel comfortable enough with this, go on Google Images, search another few, really get comfortable with it. Take 5 to 10 minutes to learn them, okay? Also, you guys just did your anatomy practical today, right? Don't throw all of that anatomy practical knowledge out of your brain. Coronal slices occasionally show up. Just know roundabout what everything is. You don't need to know as in depth as you did for the practical, but they might give you something as simple as Alzheimer's disease, and then they're going to ask you to identify the hippocampus on the coronal slice. Okay, so be able to do that. All right, so we're going to do very few slides on knowledge, and then we're going to do a marathon of 15 questions. Okay, so get ready. Direct versus indirect pathway. Don't quote me on this, but you guys are not really going to be tested on specifically what activates and then what inhibits. What you should know what the direct and indirect pathways are for and the differences between the two. But you're not going to need to know, okay, GPA goes to GPI and et cetera, okay? You don't need to know that part. You just really need to know what is involved and then what's the differences. Also, know these simple definitions of what the lentiform nucleus is and what the striatum is, okay? What they consist of. Oh, sorry. All right, so these are the differences between the direct and the indirect pathway. The direct uses what receptors?
D1.
And indirect uses?
D2.
Okay. Stimulation of the direct pathway leads to?
Movement.
Promotion of movement, while stimulation of the indirect leads to?
Inhibition of movement.
Okay, there you go. So no involvement of the subthalamic nucleus is for the direct pathway, but the indirect does have the subthalamic nucleus. This is a very simple question that comes up very commonly on board exams. What's the difference? Which structure is involved in the indirect but not the direct? And the answer is? Perfect. Okay, so dopamine is sent out by which structure?
Substantia nigra.
Pars compacta, exactly. Substantia nigra, pars compacta. Okay, and then it's going to hit the D1 and the D2 receptor. When it hits the D1, it activates the direct pathway, and that leads to
The motion of movement.
Increased movement. When it hits the E2, does it stimulate or does it inhibit the indirect pathway?
Inhibits.
It inhibits the indirect pathway, leading to the inhibition of inhibition causing
Disinhibition.
what?
Disinhibition? No.
What? Just movement.
Yeah.
Okay?
So as a general rule, any increase in dopamine will
Yeah.
increase movement?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? And that's where we move to Parkinson's disease, okay? Parkinson's disease is going to be increased or decreased dopamine?
Decrease.
Decreased. Why is that?
Because you have destruction of the SNC.
Of what? Yeah, of that. You said SNC?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's its short. Okay, so you're going to get a picture of this, okay? You're going to get a picture of this, and it's going to show you this as the brain, this part of the midbrain. You're going to need to set, at least I think it's the midbrain. Can anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, perfect. And they're going to show how it's white here. That means the patient has Parkinson's disease. There's no pigment there. That's why it's called nigra, because that means color in Latin, okay? There's no more pigment there. It's not normal. All right? So be able to identify that this is what Parkinson's disease looks like, and this is what a normal brain, healthy brain stem will look like. Okay? So you're going to have degeneration of the substantia nigra pars compacta, leads to decreased dopamine, leads to decreased stimulation of the direct pathway, and no inhibition of the indirect pathway. Inhibition, it should say inhibition of the indirect pathway, leading to
Disinhibition.
what? More, I'm sorry. I got it right where I wrote it. Sorry. So decreased stimulation of the direct pathway and no inhibition of the indirect pathway because there's no dopamine hitting D1. That leads to that. Yeah. Which pathway is that hitting? Direct. Yeah. No stimulation of the thalamus, and then no inhibition of the indirect pathway. That's through which receptor? D2. D2 is being stimulated or not stimulated? Not stimulated. Perfect. And so D2 is can't inhibit the indirect pathway. So both leads to the decreased movement. What is the opposite of Parkinson's disease?
Huntington's.
Not really.
Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia. It's actually psychosis. Psychosis is caused by increased dopamine. Okay, when you go to your psych wards a year from now, a year from now, when you guys go to your psych wards a year from now, you're going to see all these schizophrenic patients making up all these stories, and for whatever reason, that's due to dopamine. Okay, so what do you think the drugs we give psychotic patients? What? Yeah, haloperidol, stuff like that. What does it do to the dopamine levels?
It blocks the D2 receptors.
Yes, it decreases your dopamine levels. And since it decreases your dopamine levels, if you give too much of it, you're going to have something that resembles Parkinson's disease. Okay? The key things to know, you guys, I'm sure, or at least I know I did, I memorized the terms here. It's important to memorize the terms. On that test, they're most likely not going to give you these terms anymore. Or maybe not, maybe for this NBME they will, but for the boards, they don't do that anymore. What they do is they actually describe the motion that the patient can or cannot do. Okay, so know what each of these motions are. What's a resting tremor? Yeah, the patient basically, they're going to be tremoring when they're not moving, but when they're moving, okay,
Steady.
they're steady. This is not going, if you see a patient who is moving and they have tremor, but when they're solid, they have no tremor, it's a completely different disease. I think that's MS, but I'm not sure. Cogwheel rigidity is when you try to push on the patient and they move like this. Okay? Bradykinesia is slow movement. Postural instability and shuffling gait is this weird gait that you see here. Okay? So know all these key terms, know what they mean. I really recommend watching some YouTube videos on it, and it takes a minute, and then you really don't forget at that point. Huntington's disease. Okay, it's caused by degeneration of the striatum. What does the striatum consist of?
Caudate and the putamen.
And the putamen. What does the lentiform nucleus consist of?
The putamen and globus pallidus, internal and external.
Yeah, exactly. So the just remember it's the striatum here, not the lentiform nucleus. I've made that mistake. Maybe that's me being an idiot, but if I help one person by pointing this out, I feel good. Okay, it's due to CAG repeats on which chromosome? 4. Hunting for food. Decreased GABA and acetylcholine, but increased dopamine. So yeah, you can think of it sort of as the opposite of Huntington's, but just because psychosis and you give a psychotic drug and the dopamine lowers and then they have Parkinson's, I think of psychosis as the opposite of Parkinson's. The two key words that you need to know here are apoptosis and chorea. The apoptosis is the, can anyone show me?
Where is it?
What?
Snake.
Is it on this line?
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, apoptosis.
Did I pronounce it wrong? Because I can't pronounce anything right.
Sounds like a
It's- yeah.
And then chorea, which is the jerky,
Wait, what's apoptosis look like?
what? It looks like this.
Finger pushers.
Like they just stand there.
No, they like do this. I don't know, I've never actually like seen a patient with Huntington's. I've watched like one video a while ago. But if I remember correctly, it's this. I recommend confirming it by watching a YouTube video. You start out with mood problems, then you get the movement disorders here, and then the last things are dementia. But usually they commit suicide.
Looks like psychosis.
What?
Looks like psychosis.
You'll know it's not psychosis because they'll show the other symptoms first. But yeah, they develop dementia. Dementia is, yeah, patients with dementia sometimes show psychosis because they fill in the gaps by making psychotic, claims. Patients start out in their 20s to 50s. You'll get a father with something in his 50s, and then you'll get a son or daughter with something in their 40s. Okay, what kind of mutation is this? Autosomal dominant, right?
Anticipation.
What? What? Yeah, anticipation, keyword. Right? Everyone's just waiting for that to come up on the test. Alzheimer's disease. There's the healthy brain, there's the Alzheimer's disease brain. I didn't mention this for the Huntington's. Both Alzheimer's and Huntington's, they're going to have enlarged ventricles, okay? And that's due to atrophy of the brain. It's not because the ventricles are making more CSF, it's due to atrophy of the brain. Specifically, what part of the brain for Huntington's?
Striatum.
Striatum, right, which consists of the
Putamen and caudate.
caudate and putamen, right. Alzheimer's is due to decreased acetylcholine. So what drugs do we use?
Acetylcholine
Esterase inhibitors, which do what? Where do they increase the amount of acetylcholine?
In the
synapse.
In the synapse. Perfect. And you'll get patients in their 60s or older with dementia. It's the most common cause of dementia in the elderly. What's the second most common cause? Vascular dementia. Who said folate? You're a real med. You're a real.
He said old age.
Oh, okay. You guys remember the first thing to go is the hippocampus. Remember where it is. I don't want them to say Alzheimer's disease on the test and then you point up to, I think the caudate is around here. When would you circle the caudate as the right answer?
Huntington.
Huntington.
Perfect. And when would you circle substantia nigra, pars compacta?
Parkinson's.
And where's that located?
Midbrain.
Midbrain. Perfect. All right, now we're on to the marathon. All right, someone read. 1, 2, Adam.
A 72-year-old woman is brought to the emergency department after the sudden onset difficulty speaking. She has a history of atrial fibrillation. She is alert. Neurological examination shows moderate weakness of the lower 2/3 of the face on the right. She understands verbal commands such as raise your right arm.
Okay, so what is the most basic thing you can say about her at this point?